when Sunny von Bulow collapsed into a deathly coma that she would never come out of, high society argued about what really happened to their poor Sunny. Some pointed fingers at the speculative drinking problem, some assumed her devastating divorce was the cause, while others even thought her current husband was the one to blame. But little did everybody know, the truth lurked beneath the surface. A sickening revelation no one could have guessed, but we will touch on this later. Sunny's entrance into the world is worthy of a New York fairy tale. The only child of George Crawford, a utilities tycoon, and his wife Annie Laurie, the little girl was born while her mother was riding the family personal railway coach en route to New York from Virginia. And from almost this first moment, she made her mark on the world. First nicknamed Choo Choo because of the unusual circumstances of her birth, her mother and father soon quickly changed their minds once they got to know their daughter. Although her birth name was Martha, they quickly began calling her almost exclusively Sunny in her homage to her welcoming, caring nature. And as it unfortunately happened, that nature would become too welcoming. But even her childhood wasn't without pain. When Sunny was 3 years old, she got her first bitter taste of fate. Her father unfortunately passed away that year, leaving the girl without a father figure to look toward. Though he also left her a hefty inheritance of $100 million. As a young, well-heeled woman, Sunny went to Switzerland for some of the year to relax and engage with upper-class activities like tennis. In fact, the teachers at these exclusive places were often high classes themselves. So when Sunny met her new instructor Alfred one day, she might have thought he had a claim to fame. And trust me, it was a big one. As it turned out, Sunny's new tennis player wasn't just Alfred. He was Prince Alfred von Elgersberg, a real live European royal right before Sunny's eyes. It went deeper than that too. Alfred's family was one of the most distinguished, and he no doubt had impeccable manners. There was, however, one big thing missing from him. Prince Alfred may have had a title, but he certainly did not have the money. When they met, World War I had long ago ravaged Europe. As such, for all of their good breeding, Alfred's family were practically penniless, at least in noble terms, which made the next development in this story very convenient for him. Evidently, Sunny liked what she saw in Prince Alfred, and the two eventually got engaged. For both, their relationship had some extra perks. Sunny and her American merchant family got the benefits of a royal name, while Prince Alfred and his strapped-for-cash family got access to a bigger bank account than they could imagine. It was looking like a fairy tale ending. Of course, looks can obviously be deceiving. Sunny and her prince married in the summer of 1957, and before long, they had 2 children together. Princess Annie Laurie in 1958 and Prince Alexander just a year later. At the time of Sunny's second childbirth, she was just 27 years old and already a mother of 2 royals. But things couldn't continue on this happy trajectory for long. The next years of Sunny's life were far gloomier than she displayed to the world. Although the secrets of the royal marriage were mostly kept between tight lips, in 1965 it all fell apart. That year, just shy of a decade of marriage, Sunny and Prince Alfred finally filed for divorce. And Sunny's next move had everybody whispering scandal. In 1966, just a year after her split from her prince, Sunny made another splash in society by marrying Claus von Bulow, the right-hand man of the enormously wealthy J. Paul Getty. The tall, elegant Danish socialite was a true man about town and a noble himself. So despite any of the whispers coming from the New York's upper crust, everyone could understand at least why Sunny had done it. But in 1967, she gave birth to another child, naming her Cosima. By 1979, Sunny's older children were all grown up, but Cosima was well on her way to becoming a successful socialite herself. In the late 70s, Sunny and Klaus's marriage took a dark turn. They were very frequently at odds with each other, and although they could put a good face in front of the public, in private they could barely even stand each other, let alone touch each other. And acts of intimacy were very few and far between. It also didn't help that Klaus was frequently in New York, while Sunny was in Newport, adding to their distance. Much like her first marriage to Prince Alfred, Sunny was very much the wealthy one in this relationship with Klaus, and had given her husband a trust of $120,000 per year, which came off the interest of her own assets. This, though, had a sinister effect on the relationship. Although Klaus certainly liked the money, he despised the feeling of being a kept man, and soon staged a cruel rebellion. Around this time, it was an open secret that Klaus no longer considered his marriage vows particularly binding. He was brazenly courting the former soap opera star Alexandra Isles, and he didn't seem to particularly care if Sunny knew about it or not. After all, he had to get his freedom somewhere, right? Except that this illicit relationship wasn't just harmless fun. Alexandra wasn't content as being the other woman, and she and Klaus began talking about marriage. Only if Klaus could manage to divorce his current wife. But there was a catch. Alexandra also wasn't going to settle for a poor man, and Klaus knew if Sunny went, so did her hefty allowance. Apart from all of this, there was also an unsettling issue with Sunny herself. Reportedly, Klaus told her lover that the biggest reason he couldn't leave Sunny was her mental instability. Because while Klaus had one foot out of the door, Sunny was still determined to make up their marriage. And Klaus didn't know what she would do without him. This made Alexandra super upset, so she broke off their affair. But before the lovers might have gone on again, something explosive happened. In December of 1979, Sunny's very large family managed to come together at their Rhode Island mansion for a Christmas celebration on the 26th. On that day, Sunny and her adult son Alexander spent hours happily drinking a couple of spiked eggnogs together in the family library. Even yet, this was a dark sign to come. According to more than one of Sunny's family friends, Sunny was hiding a deep, dark secret. People close to the Von Bulows claim that Sunny had a drinking problem. As one of them put it to her, one failing was that once she took one drink, she would not be able to stop. Reportedly, even just a couple drinks could make her behave erratically. It wasn't just regular tipsiness that overcame Sunny when she drank. She became almost unable to use her body after drinking. She would end up toppling furniture or hitting herself on the head when she was leaving rooms. At one point, she even collapsed in the bathroom due to the excessive drinking. It had gotten so bad that her friend suggested an AA intervention. During that fateful Christmas holiday, these behaviors came to a climax. After all of those eggnogs with Alexander, Sunny became, as usual, somewhat incoherent and sleepy. Judging it was time for his mother to go to sleep, Alexander helped Sunny into her bedroom and left her there to rest for the evening. But, and this is something everyone in the family agrees on, it was not to be a silent night. According to Klaus von Bulow, Sunny didn't come into the room and immediately go to bed. Instead, she began to unravel. She started arguing with Klaus about how much his work took him away from her and the family. And Klaus himself admitted later on that we discussed splitting up and I was trying to have a discreet separation, but it was not gonna be discreet at all. The next few hours were super foggy for everyone involved, but at some point during the night, Sunny seemed to fall into kind of an unconscious stupor. And while the Von Bulow's maid, Maria, was worried about her, Klaus himself insisted that Sunny was just sleeping off her eggnogs and their fight, and there was no need to call for a doctor. This proved to be a grave error. It took Sunny's son Alexander coming in the very next day and shaking at his unresponsive mother to convince Klaus something was extremely wrong. Once they called the doctor took one look at her and rushed her to the hospital to try to understand what was really going on. Then the situation grew truly dire. On the way, Sunny slipped into a coma, leaving her children panic-stricken and begging doctors for an answer. When it came to one, it was deceptively simple. Luckily, the doctors were able to manage to revive Sunny from her coma, and with her cure, they also found the problem. They informed the socialite that she was hypoglycemic and had fallen unconscious because of the dangerously low blood sugar. The key, they informed her, was just to avoid too many sweet foods and eat regular meals. But her family would learn much later on that this may have not been the whole story. Ever since that very strange evening and morning where Klaus refused to call a doctor, the family maid, Martha, had harbored suspicions that Sunny's husband knew more than he was letting on. Then, just a few months later, she made a heart-stopping discovery. She happened to open a compartment of Klaus's travel bag and found it full of a bunch of sedatives. But her discovery didn't stop there. Maria was unsettled by the sedatives, but she also had no further proof that something was amiss. Even after, again, Sunny grew disoriented, went to the hospital, and was told to better manage her apparent hypoglycemia, Maria noted a new, oddly terrifying addition to the black bag: a syringe of insulin. And although she told Sunny's son Alexander about her findings, they both remained quiet. But the both would realize they would come to regret this. The next and last months of Sunny's life were one tragedy after another. Suffering a sinus infection, she ingested a concerning amount of aspirin and became, as Martha put it, slurry, needing another trip to the hospital. As it turned out, the enormous dose of tablets was nearly fatal, and the socialite had to stay there for 3 days. And back home, her life wasn't any better. The tensions between Klaus and Sunny were now at an all-time high. Sunny, who was down on herself about her current weight gain, she seemed to cling to her husband even more than before and didn't care about the outside world. They had no more parties with their friends and very little on their calendar. And Sunny, for some reason, couldn't seem to slip out of this slump that recently gripped her. Unfortunately, she never would. Right around Christmas time in the 1980, almost a year to date after Sunny's first horrifying trip to the hospital, the Bulow family was back in their Rhode Island mansion for the holidays. On the 21st, the family had a dinner together, where they went to the local theater to watch a film, and then after, Sunny went into her private bath for a bit. When she returned, she was carrying a glass of ginger ale, or at least that's what her son Alexander assumed it was. Given the next events, anything is possible. After asking Klaus to get her a bowl of leftover chicken soup from the kitchen, a horrific change suddenly overcame Sunny. First, her voice grew weak, and then faltered. She even began to have difficulty holding onto her glass, and when she tried to get up, she started to stagger. Absolutely terrified, Alexander asked her if she took any sedatives, and she said she hadn't. Then Alexander made the mistake that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Although Sunny was clearly having a lot of difficulties, they didn't seem to be out of the ordinary from her latest issues. And Alexander believed that his mother needed nothing more than a good night's rest. Still, just to be safe, he told Klaus about what was happening, and after his stepfather entered the bedroom, Alexander went to meet some of his friends at the pub. Terribly, Alexander would never see his mother conscious again. The next morning was a repeat of last December, with one key change. Klaus and Alexander met each other at breakfast, close to 11 a.m. While Sunny was nowhere to be found, this was quite normal as she tended to sleep in quite often. However, this was strange even for her. Even though Klaus had been lying beside her the entire night and hadn't appeared to notice anything was the matter with her, he decided to go back into the bedroom to check on her. After one quick look in the bathroom, Klaus called to Alexander with alarm, and they both stepped into Sunny's private bathroom. The sight was harrowing. Sunny was lying there, unconscious and bleeding from her lip. When Alexander checked his mother's pulse, he would find none, and Sunny herself was cold. The family rushed into action, but the results were nightmarish. Over the next days, all of the best doctors and the tests confirmed the same thing. Sunny was in a coma once again, and this time, the doctors couldn't get her out of it. She had sustained so much injury to her brain that she was now in a vegetative state. However, other medical discoveries in those days told more tragedies. As the physicians ran more tests on Sunny's almost lifeless body, they found inconclusive results on what actually happened to cause the coma. Although some of her symptoms resembled a second overdose, the other lab results pointed to another brutal attack of hypoglycemia. But for Sunny's eldest child, those answers weren't even the point. They had a much bigger culprit in mind. Over the past years, small dark thoughts have been growing in Alexander's mind, as well as his sister's. Both of Sunny's children with Prince Alfred couldn't ignore that syringe of insulin in Klaus's black bag, nor could they forget his indifference to her first coma or the significant sum of money he would get from Sunny if she died. For them, he had done it. Klaus was responsible for their mother's condition, but they had to tread extremely carefully. Sunny was a notorious private socialite, and she often turned down many requests for magazine shoots and interviews. So the last thing her children wanted was to splash the scandal all over the front pages. Instead, though, they decided to discreetly approach a lawyer and ask him what the evidence looked like to him. But before they even met, they got a shocking answer. The von Auersperg children were at their mother's bedside constantly, which is where they learned a gut-wrenching truth. One of the doctors caring for Sunny was so suspicious of the situation, he went up to the children and told them he believed that Sunny hadn't overdosed, nor had she become naturally hypoglycemic and slipped into a coma. According to the doctor, she must have been injected with a syringe of insulin. A syringe exactly like the one that, unbeknownst to the neurologist, was in Klaus's little black bag. The children sprang into action for her mother, and on July 1981, a grand jury had indicted him on 2 charges of attempted murder. One for the incident in December of 1979, and the other one for the December 1980. The news was now all over the world. The prominent Bulow family had skeletons in their closet, but much more was going to come out. In 1982, Klaus went on trial while his wife, Sunny, lay still, unconscious and unknowing in a hospital bed. The prosecution included testimonies from witnesses, even as they contended with arguments about Sunny's casual use of sedatives, her previous mishandling of aspirin, and her general deteriorating mental state. But there was a single smoking gun, and it spelled Klaus's doom. In their sweep of Bulow's island property, the investigators found one piece of evidence that shocked everyone into silence. Inside of Klaus's infamous black bag was now a used syringe, and tested to show that it had traces of insulin on it. This slim weapon was the best evidence yet, and had landed Klaus on trial in the first place. Additionally, it also sealed his coming fate. After this, Klaus was convicted of the charges at the end of his trial. Everything had seemed to add up too easily. His stepchildren rejoiced, even though they mourned the vibrant mother they had once known, and the rest of the world seemed certain that he'd gotten what he deserved. Guilty or innocent, Klaus was a fighter and a winner, and he didn't back down after his conviction. He immediately called for an appeal and hired an infamous lawyer and Harvard law professor, Alan Dershowitz, who would later go on to win O.J. Simpson's case to defend him. It brought about a complete reversal of fortunes. In the appeal trial, Dershowitz systematically unraveled all of the prosecution's claims, from casting doubt on their witnesses to questioning even the residual of insulin left on that key syringe. Dershowitz also pressed more on Sunny's state of mind and her use of sedatives, until at least Klaus won the appeal and walked out a free man. No one could escape Sunny's fate, or its consequences. In the aftermath of the trials, Sunny's family was ripped apart, while her 2 eldest children still believed Klaus was the man who did it. Mere days after Klaus's result, Sunny's children inflicted a new wound on their stepfather. They began a civil trial against him on behalf of their mother, and this time, their desired results stuck. They settled out of court with a ruling that Klaus needed to divorce Sunny, give up their mother's millions in the split, and then leave the country entirely. They finally could find some peace, even if her mother couldn't. For the next few decades, Sunny lay in her vegetative state, never experiencing a miracle or waking up, unfortunately. Then, in 2008, passing from a heart attack in December at the age of 76. In the end, Klaus lived to the extremely ripe age of 92, and passed only in 2019. He'd spent his remaining years living mostly in London and staying completely out of the spotlight, but the dark shadows nonetheless lingered over him. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this stories or stories alike, make sure to show some love by subscribing or liking this video. Stay tuned for some more informative and exciting stories like this one.